Some stories were never meant to be told because they sounded too far-fetched, and others stayed buried because they were simply too dangerous. But this one wasn't just a viral horror tale with cheap jump scares or fake blood effects. It was darker. It was real. And it happened inside a mansion you've probably seen in glossy magazines or on late-night TV, the kind with perfect landscaping and windows too dark to see through. You've heard the rumors, the whispers, the breakdowns, the disappearances, the celebrities who once shined too bright and then, suddenly, stopped. Everyone laughs at the idea of something sinister behind the fame. They make memes, they joke, but no one ever asks why those rumors never seem to go away. I didn't believe any of it either, not until I saw it, and now I can't unsee it. I was nobody, just a butler, hired help. I wasn't chasing clout or dreaming of stardom. I just needed a paycheck that came on time. Before all this, I was a bartender at a midtown hotel, pouring drinks for corporate ghosts and tourists who barely saw my face. I was there 5 years, completely invisible, until one day a man walked in mid-40s, expensive coat, strange calmness, and just watched me. Not in a creepy way, just deliberate. When I finished helping another guest, he walked over and slid a business card toward me like he was placing a bet at a casino. No name, just a number, and one sentence in all caps: discretion earns longevity. A week later, I was on a plane to Los Angeles to interview for what they called a private service position. That's all they told me. No title, no details, just high pay and high expectations. I didn't even know who the client was until I stepped through the gates of that mansion. There was no number on the address, just a gravel driveway flanked by hedges taller than a delivery truck. It looked like somewhere fairy tales died. Inside, everything was silent and pristine, like a museum designed by someone who hated joy. Then I saw him, Diddy, the mogul, the man of many names. They called him Brother Love last year. The year before, something else. He didn't shake my hand. He didn't smile. He just stared, nodded once, and said, "Yeah, he'll do." That was it. I didn't even sign anything directly with him. The agency handled the contracts, the non-disclosures, and set up a direct deposit in a Cayman account. There were rules, so many rules. No phones upstairs, no locked doors unless they were his, no speaking unless spoken to. I told myself I didn't care. The money was stupid. $8,000 a month. Housing, food, a black car whenever I needed it, bonuses on holidays. I wasn't there to chase dreams. I was there to survive. The guy from the hotel, the one who recruited me, pulled me aside before I started. He said, "Diddy likes men around, quiet ones, calm ones, not flashy. You're good. Don't be flashy." I didn't understand it then. Still don't, but I learned fast how the house worked. No clocks on the walls, no windows in certain hallways, music playing in empty rooms. Diddy didn't walk. He glided, like the floor moved beneath him. Some days he'd ignore me completely. Other days he'd lock eyes too long, then smile like he just remembered something you weren't supposed to know. The first time he ever spoke to me directly, I was polishing a brass railing in the front foyer. He came down the stairs wearing socks, silent steps, and when I looked up, he was staring right at me. "Hey, what's up?" he said, smile flat as a paper cut. "Keep up the good work." Then he disappeared down the hallway. I should have felt reassured. Maybe he was just eccentric. Rich people get weird. But that wasn't it. There were moments, strange ones, that stacked up like stones in my gut. One night, I turned a corner on the second floor and nearly jumped. There he was, standing in the middle of a hallway lined with mirrors, wearing a black robe, staring at his reflection. He wasn't moving, not blinking, just watching himself. But he wasn't looking at his face. He was staring into his own eyes like he was waiting for them to look away first. Then he spoke without turning. "You ever look at yourself long enough, you start to see someone else?" I didn't respond, just stood still. After a beat, he turned and walked away, like nothing happened. Another time, I was prepping the guest suite for a last-minute visitor. I unlocked the door and jumped. He was already inside, sitting on the edge of the bed. The room had been empty 10 minutes earlier. "Didn't mean to startle you," he said, his voice drifting. "Just making sure it still feels like a bedroom." Then he stood and walked past me. As he did, he murmured, "Weird how some spaces pretend to be normal." I waited until he left, then looked at the bed. The covers were folded into a perfect square. On top was a single black glove. I couldn't explain any of it. I told myself I was imagining things. Stress, overwork, maybe a mild psychotic break. But then came the hum. It wasn't from speakers or electronics. It was low, almost wet, like the air itself was vibrating. You didn't hear it so much as you felt it, in your teeth in the back of your skull. One night, I walked into the kitchen and saw him sitting at the table alone. No food, no drink, just watching the microwave. The hum was louder there. I opened my mouth to ask if he needed anything, but before I could speak, he said, "It's not the house making that sound. It's what's underneath." Then he smiled, not at me, just at the room. I should have left, but I didn't. I told myself the money was worth it, that I could hold my breath through the unease, that weird didn't always mean wrong. I even convinced myself that maybe I was the problem. Maybe I just didn't get it. That was until the clips started showing up. One afternoon, I took a break on the back patio, phone in hand, scrolling, mindless. Then I saw it. A video. Diddy and a teenage boy on a talk show, smiling, laughing. Diddy had his arm around him like a protective uncle. But something in his eyes, it didn't match. I scrolled. Another clip, another gesture, another gift. A car, a vacation. Comments joked about mentorship, father figure energy. But to me it felt wrong, like he wasn't looking at the kid he was through him, possessive, calculating, hungry. Then came the day they told the staff to clear out. "Justin's coming," one of the security guards said. That's when everything clicked. The videos, the tension, the glances. And for the first time since I took the job, I wanted to leave. But I didn't. I stayed. And that was the worst decision I ever made. The hallway that led behind the main living room was narrow, lined with cabinets and storage units, but I knew the layout better than most. There was one cabinet, near the end, that looked ordinary unless you pressed the bottom left panel. Then it would click, swing open, and reveal the crawlspace entrance, a dusty passage carved between the interior walls of the mansion, meant for electrical access, maybe maintenance, but now it was my hiding place. I slid inside without a sound, heart rattling in my chest like a bird trapped in a box, phone in my hand, flashlight off. The panel closed behind me with a soft thud, and I crouched low, bracing my hands against the wooden beams, careful not to knock loose any wires. From here, I could access 3 rooms: the study, the home theater, and one space I'd never been told about, one that didn't appear on the floor plans that agency gave me, one whose walls seemed to shift depending on who was in the house. My chest felt tight with anticipation, or dread, I couldn't tell which. I crawled toward that space, guided only by memory and the faint pull of instinct, until I reached the sliver of light seeping through a thin, vertical crack. It was coming from behind what looked like a closet panel from the other side, but from this angle, I could see into the hidden room. And what I saw made my blood retreat from my limbs like it knew something my brain didn't. The floor was dark stone, not wood or marble like the rest of the house. One velvet chair sat in the center beneath amber stage lights. No decor, no mirrors, no cameras at least, not obvious ones. Just a stage built for one performer. Then Diddy entered, moving slowly, hands clasped behind his back, wearing all black. His footsteps didn't echo, but his presence filled the room like smoke. Behind him came Justin. He looked smaller than in the videos, younger somehow. His eyes darted around, confused, nervous, like he wasn't sure if this was a prank or a test. He rubbed his hands together, cleared his throat, and looked at Diddy, who just nodded once and said, "All right, I want to see you perform." The word sounded wrong coming from him. It wasn't a request, it was a command. Justin hesitated, then began to sing. Something soft, acoustic. His voice trembled on the first few notes, but Diddy raised his hand to stop him. "Nah," he said flatly. "I don't want to hear you sing. I want to see you perform." The pause that followed was thick, airless. Justin looked lost. "You mean like dance?" he asked, voice barely audible. Diddy tilted his head. "Whatever you feel, let it out. Right here, right now. This is where stars are made." There was no warmth in his tone, no encouragement, only pressure, wrapped in velvet, soaked in control. I watched as Justin stood still, his limbs locked, then slowly began to move. I won't describe what he did. I can't. I won't. But it wasn't art. It wasn't music. It was survival. His body reacted while his soul tried to leave. His movements weren't fluid or rehearsed. They were like reflexes, like flinches. His face stayed neutral, but his eyes screamed. And Diddy just watched, eyes wide, lips curled in that strange smile, not approval, not joy, something else entirely. There was a small red light glowing from the wall behind the chair. A hidden camera, recording. For who? Why? Who else was meant to see this? I don't know how long it lasted. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. My body stopped registering time. My thighs burned from crouching, my shoulders trembled from holding still, and my mind split somewhere between reality and nausea. I closed my eyes and covered my ears, but I still heard the words. Diddy voice, smooth and cruel. "You're always going to remember this moment. You're always going to remember me." Then silence. Then a laugh. Not Justin's real laugh, no, this was a brittle thing, a cracked mirror sound. The kind of laugh people make when their psyche breaks to protect them from pain. And then footsteps. The soft click of a door. They were gone. I didn't move. Couldn't. My muscles were jelly, my palms slick, my teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached. I crawled backward through the space, scraping my shoulders against beams and wires, breathing shallow through my nose to avoid throwing up. I needed out. I didn't care about the contract anymore, or the money, or the stupid rule book. That performance had broken something in me. Not just because of what I saw, but because of what I felt, like I'd witnessed a soul being shattered on command. I reached the cabinet, pushed it open, and stumbled into the side hallway, breathing like a man drowning in clean air. I walked toward the front door, each step echoing like a scream in the cathedral quiet mansion. 30 feet, 20, 10. I could see the stained glass panes glowing with sunlight. I reached for the handle and froze. Diddy stood there, in front of the door, as if he'd been waiting, still in black, still smiling. But this time the smile wasn't performative. It was real, deep, slow, the kind of smile you get after taking the last cookie from the jar and knowing no one can stop you. "Did you like the performance?" he asked, tilting his head. I couldn't speak. My throat was a desert. My arms hung limp. And then I saw it. The thing beside him. At first, I thought it was a man. Maybe another guard. But something was wrong. The shape was off. Too tall. Shoulders hunched like it didn't understand how to carry a human frame. Its hand rested on Diddy's shoulder, not in protection and ownership. Its skin wasn't skin. It was void, absorbing light. Its face, no, there was no face, just smooth, blank darkness where features should be. But I felt it watching me. I felt it inside my bones. My chest constricted, my knees buckled. I took a step back. "You don't have to run," Diddy said. "You work here. You're part of the house." The thing didn't move, didn't speak, but I felt it, like a furnace with no flame, like hunger. That's when I broke. I turned and ran. I don't remember opening the door. I don't remember the stairs or the path. I just remember gravel crunching under my shoes and my heart pounding like war drums. I ran to the back garage where the security SUV was parked. Keys in the ignition, engine warm. Someone had left it running. I didn't think. I just jumped in, slammed the door, and peeled down the driveway, tires screaming against the gravel. I didn't care about cameras. I didn't care about protocol. I just needed distance. I didn't stop for 20 straight minutes, weaving through back roads, cutting through alleys, erasing my trail like a man on fire. But even as the mansion vanished in my rearview mirror, even as I crossed into the chaos of Los Angeles traffic, I could still feel it. That hum, that smile, that thing. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. My hands were shaking so badly that the wheel kept jerking with every pothole, every curve. My breathing came out in sharp gasps, like my lungs had forgotten the rhythm of life. The mansion disappeared behind me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't really left, like some part of that place had wrapped around me, invisible, still clinging to my clothes and my skin and the back of my mind. I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, expecting to see headlights, black SUVs, or worse, him, or that thing. The shape that wasn't shaped right. The creature that didn't move but made the whole room feel smaller just by being in it. I drove until my fingers numbed from gripping the wheel. At the edge of some forgotten neighborhood, where the streets cracked and the buildings wore graffiti like scars, I spotted a gas station. One of those half-dead ones with only a few working pumps and a flickering sign that buzzed like it was dying too. It was perfect, forgotten, unimportant, safe. I pulled in, killed the engine, and just sat there, listening to the tick of the cooling engine and the thud of my own heart in my ears. My mouth was dry. My shirt clung to my back with sweat. I grabbed my phone and stumbled out of the SUV, walking to the payphone booth bolted to the side of the building. It didn't even work anymore, but I needed to be somewhere that felt off-grid. I opened Uber and booked the longest ride I could afford with the little cash I had stashed in my sock drawer for emergencies. Destination, LAX. The driver arrived in less than 10 minutes, a silent man in his 30s who didn't ask any questions when I said I'd had a bad job and didn't want to talk. Bless him for that. We drove. I kept looking out the windows, scanning rooftops, alleys, side streets, expecting to see someone or something. But there was nothing, and that terrified me more. Because silence wasn't absence. Silence was strategy. I got to the airport with nothing but my phone, the clothes on my back, and $900 in crumpled bills. No suitcase, no plan, no backup. I bought the next ticket to Chicago. I didn't care about the price. I didn't care about the layover. I just needed to be airborne. Gone. I didn't sleep on the plane. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Justin's face. That smile he forced. That laugh that cracked in the middle like glass under heat. I saw the red light of the camera glowing in the dark. I heard Diddy voice, smooth and slow and soaked in certainty. Be your authentic self. That sentence lived in my bones now. It pulsed behind my ribs. I landed in Chicago and paid cash for a motel on the outskirts of the city, the kind where no one asked for ID if you handed them enough 20s. I stayed there for a week. No phone calls, no emails. I deleted all my social media accounts, bought a prepaid burner phone, and kept the curtains closed. I only went out after midnight, and even then, only for food or cash. But no matter how much distance I put between me and that house, I couldn't get rid of the feeling of being watched, of being known. I started seeing Diddy again, not in person, not in shadow, but everywhere else. Clips, interviews, party photos, late-night shows, always smiling, always untouched. And then Justin appeared again, too. Not the kid from the clips. This version was older, grayer at the edges. He broke down on stage mid-performance, canceled tours, gave interviews with that hollow look, the one you only recognize after you've seen it up close. People called it stress, anxiety, fame pressure. Some said drugs, others said religion. No one ever said the truth. I saw what broke him. I saw what took him, and I couldn't forget it. I moved cities again, took a different name, got a job cleaning offices at night, invisible again. I thought maybe if I kept moving, whatever followed me would eventually give up. But it didn't. Some nights, I'd wake up sweating with the feeling that something was standing at the end of the bed, not touching, not breathing, just waiting. I started seeing symbols, random at first, a velvet glove on a bench, the word perform carved into a bathroom stall, a humming from behind a wall vent that made my molars ache. Once, at a gas station, the song that played in Diddy house started on the radio, something obscure, instrumental, soft, but sinister. I froze, heart leaping. The cashier stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But I couldn't shake the truth. I didn't just leave that house. I escaped it, and it never let me go. I tried writing it down once, the whole thing. Thought maybe if I got it out, it would loosen its grip. But the words wouldn't come. Or worse, they came too easily, and I didn't recognize my own voice. That's when I knew it wasn't just trauma. It was possession. Not by a ghost, but by knowledge, forbidden, ugly knowledge that couldn't be unsaid. One night, while scrolling my burner phone, I saw another clip of Diddy at an awards show, standing in a gold suit, laughing with executives, shaking hands with politicians. And I realized something that turned my stomach. None of them looked confused. None of them looked surprised. They weren't ignorant. They were complicit. That house wasn't just a house. It was a gate, and I had walked through it. And when I left, I brought something with me. Not an object, not a memory, but an invitation. And every night I stayed silent. I let it spread. I let it feed. That's when I knew I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I had to tell someone, even if no one believed me, even if they laughed, even if they called me crazy. Because if I disappeared, and I know that's a real possibility, someone had to know why. Someone had to know about the chair, the hum, the thing beside him, and what it means to be told, you work here, you're a part of the house. I didn't post the story under my real name. I made a new account with no connections, no photos, no voice. I typed everything slowly, watching the words bleed onto the screen like old wounds opening, one by one. Every sentence felt like dragging a wire from my throat. I didn't try to sound convincing. I didn't care if people believed me. I wasn't chasing attention. I just needed the truth to exist somewhere outside my head, somewhere it couldn't rot me from the inside out. When I hit publish, I thought I would feel lighter. I didn't. I felt hunted. The next morning, the burner phone rang for the first time. No name, just a vibration on the metal nightstand that made the lamp shiver. I let it ring. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I already knew who it was. That same day, I saw a van parked across the street. No logo, tinted windows. I watched it through the blinds for hours. It didn't move. That night, I slept with the motel chair propped against the doorknob and a kitchen knife under my pillow. Not because I thought it would save me, but because holding something real helped me remember that I still existed. The dreams returned. Not memories worse than that, glimpses. A velvet chair in a windowless room, the red glow of the camera lens blinking like an eye. Justin, not moving, not speaking, just looking at me, not past me. At me. His mouth open, but no sound. Behind him, Diddy stood still as stone, wearing a smile that never touched his eyes. But it wasn't the smile that made me wake up choking on air. It was the thing behind him, closer now, taller, its arms wrong, its fingers too long. It watched with no eyes, it breathed with no lungs, and somehow I could hear it, not a sound, a frequency, a hum, that same hum, like electricity trapped in meat. I moved motels again, bought a different phone, new SIM, cash only, no IDs, but that didn't matter. Because this thing, whatever it was, it didn't need numbers or signals to find me. It already knew. It knew the first time I peeked through that crack in the wall. It knew the moment I stayed when I should have run. I started noticing things online. Posts disappearing, accounts suspended. A YouTuber who mentioned Diddy house got demonetized overnight. Another podcast host who joked about the velvet chair got hacked. People weren't just ignoring the truth, something was scrubbing it away. And still, he smiled. Award shows, press conferences, billboard parties, the same grin, the same teeth, the same eyes that had watched a child perform for no one but a monster and a machine. And then there was Justin. He resurfaced again. Tour announcements, studio teasers. He smiled too, but not really. His eyes lagged behind his body, like his soul was buffering. like he was still back there, in that room, under that light, hearing that voice say, "Don't hold back. This is where stars are made." I stopped watching. I couldn't do it anymore. But the world kept showing me anyway. Clips, ads, memes. He was everywhere. And every time I saw him, I remembered. Not what he did, but how it felt. To watch someone break in real time and realize no one would save them, because no one even knew they needed saving. One night, I walked past a music store and saw a poster of Diddy in the window. Big letters, a smile, the word icon in gold foil, and I realized then what scared me the most. He wasn't hiding. He never was. The house wasn't cursed. It was curated, designed, ritualized, and everyone inside, they weren't guests. They were inventory. You weren't just invited. You were cataloged, processed, filed. I started getting messages on the burner phone. No names, just photos. Grainy shots of hotel lobbies I'd passed through, street corners I'd stood on. One was from the airport the night I fled L.A. Another was the gas station where I hid behind a dead payphone. No threats, just proof. "I see you." That's what they said, without a word, without a voice. "I see you." And then came the sound. Not through the phone, not through the walls, through me. That hum, that sickening vibration like the house had crawled into my bloodstream. I felt it in my teeth again, my spine, behind my eyes. I knew what it meant. It was the call. The one you don't answer, but you still hear. The one that says, "Come back. You belong here. You're a part of the house." I packed what I could: cash, a flashlight, a Bible my mother gave me when I turned 16. I left the motel key on the pillow and walked into the night like a man heading to his own funeral. But I didn't go back. Not to L.A., not to the mansion. I went deeper underground. The kind of places where the city forgets itself. Abandoned warehouses, empty parking garages, places with no addresses. I slept in stairwells and alleyways, under different skies every night, always moving, always listening. Because the thing I learned, the truth no one wants to say out loud, is that once you've been inside that house, you never leave completely. Some doors, once opened, don't shut again. Not really. And that hum, that sound that crawls inside your bones and sings to something old and hidden, that's the reminder that you saw, that you know, that you're marked. I don't care if you believe me. I don't care if you laugh. I didn't write this for you. I wrote it for the next one. The one who's about to walk through a set of doors they think lead to opportunity but really open into something much colder, much older, much hungrier. If you're reading this and you ever find yourself in a room with no clocks, no windows, and a velvet chair in the center, leave. Don't ask questions. Don't perform. Don't smile. Just leave. Because you're not in a house. You're inside a mouth. And it's already begun chewing.